Hey, it's Ryan Tedder, and you are here with me and Adam Baum,
Yay.
watching on Nights Live.
Watching a lot.
This is Nights Live with Adam Baum.
You know, I just Googled images of you, Ryan Tedder, on Nights Live with me, Adam Baum, across the USA. You really don't take a bad picture.
Man, you know, if you're trying to avoid lusting, don't Google me.
Lusting?
Yeah.
I love it. So I've never interviewed you before. I've never had you on the show, so this is a big deal for me.
Well,
I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be your first time interviewing. Wait a minute. First time?
First, well, it doesn't sound right. We can
No,
back up.
no.
We'll start over. Ryan Tedder, One Republic, Nights Live. I'm Adam Baum. So let's just go right now. I mean,
Let's do it. I'll kill her, no filler. Let's do it.
you're pretty big deal. What's it like?
Man,
But it's such a cliche question, but honestly,
I keep buying bigger hats because my head keeps getting so damn big. This is a size 9.
are we gonna have to open the window because the ego? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we are. My entourage actually is in the hallway.
But it's got to be something. Did you imagine what you've done to this point? Did you imagine it when you were interning or your first job? Or
When I was, no, I think, you know, my original goal, I met a couple songwriters in Nashville, which is where all this kind of started, who I think were making like probably 50 grand a year on their draw, you know, from their publisher as a songwriter. And they lived in this kind of nice little house up in the hills outside of Franklin, Tennessee. And they lived what I thought the most ideal life in the world. And they took lots of vacations, and they were these songwriters. And so in my mind, I thought if I could just do that, like if I could have their life, you know, at that income and just kind of, that was like, I didn't really have these huge aspirations. I had much bigger aspirations as an artist, but I also thought my whole view to this day still with artists is there is still, no matter how hard you work or how talented you are, there is still that weird element where the stars have to align. If you're going to break as an actual artist, it's a lot easier to be just a songwriter than just to be an artist. So my aspirations for One Republic were kind of like, we're going to give it like 5 years. And if the stars align, then the stars align. And if they don't, I'm just going to write songs.
right. Describe how hard it is to cut through to have a song. I mean that One Republic that gets played on the radio. How hard is that to accomplish, and what goes into that?
It's, you know, it's definitely difficult. If it were easy, I think that I'm lucky to have one of the best jobs in the world. If it were easy, obviously millions of people would be doing it.
Right.
It's incredibly difficult. I mean, I've been writing songs since I was 15 and have done, they say 10,000 hours, right, to master something. I've probably, at this point, I'm probably at about 25,000 hours, 30,000 hours.
How many years is that?
I don't even know.
That's crazy.
Too many.
Yeah.
I think it's probably 10 years solid, you know. And even still, you know, not everything that I write is going to connect in the way that I want it to. So for One Republic, it's always harder. It's always hard. I mean, bands are kind of like, you know, to see a band stay together for 3 albums and have each album do better than the one before it, that in and of itself is an anomaly. You know, we've been very lucky that this has happened. Native is our biggest album we've ever put out. And but that's when you want it to happen. You want that kind of growth to happen. You want your third album to be what it is, and then your fourth album to be bigger than your third. And 99% of the time, it's the other way around. You know, for bands, they come out, they write a hit. You know, the world loves them for their first album, kind of loves them for their second album. By the third album, they go, "Wow, man, they're just not the same anymore." You know, they're just not doing it, and it's hard to keep it together.
Do you critique other artists and say those type of things when you listen to their music?
I you know, not in like a derogatory way, more of just like an observational way. Like yes, there are a lot of times I've been writing for so many years for so many other artists that, you know, my songs get put in the hands of other record labels and other bands that I've written for and other things that I've produced that, you know, just because of that, you become kind of a, not an expert, but I'd say an adjunct professor at the music business. So you can't help but see when poor decisions are made or great decisions are made. You can't help it. This is the line of work that we're in. And so, yeah, there are times where I see, you know, specifically, I pay a lot more attention to bands really than I do just solo artists because I'm in a band.
Right.
And I think bands classically make the most mistakes. I just
Okay.
think we're the most prone to making mistakes of anybody in the in terms of career choices, more so than just solo artists.
You just gave me a great idea. If you were a professor teaching music, whatever,
Yeah.
pick one artist that would be your A student. That would be your out of anybody,
My A student.
or just one of your A students. Let's put it that way.
You know, I would say, for different reasons, I would say, it's kind of easy. I mean, Adele is an A student, but she's the kind of genius that doesn't attend class. She
So
just
she's tardy.
shows up. She shows up at the end of the. She's the kid that would go to Harvard and somehow ace the courses by ditching out. Didn't who's the dude that runs Microsoft? Bill Gates.
Bill Gates,
I think
yeah.
that's what he did. He
Yeah.
showed up at the end and passed everything, and they were like, "But you weren't in class for the whole semester." He's like, "Well, because I knew it." you
Yeah.
know? She'd be the A plus, and then I think Taylor would probably be an A plus student for sure.
Yeah.
Just, for a variety of reasons. And then as far as bands go, I don't know. I mean, Coldplay, U2.
Yeah.
I mean, obvious ones.
Right, yeah, the obvious ones.
Yeah.
Ryan Tedder's on with us across the USA on Nights Live. When you were a kid, did you listen to the radio?
Obsessively, I made my own mixtapes.
Get out.
I made my own mixtapes, and on career day, you're allowed to have somebody come in, and I think much to this guy's annoyance, he was not thrilled the day he showed up. But I got the jockey from KJ 103
In Oklahoma City, yeah.
I got him to come down, and he was my career day.
That's so cool.
Person, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Man, so I got a copy of I Lived from
Oh,
the
yeah.
label.
Oh yeah,
Man, I
Yeah.
like it.
thank you.
What's it all about? Because, I mean, obviously, I want to hear it from you, though, because I
Yeah.
want you to describe it.
Yeah.
I kind of got a gist of it. What's it all about?
I wrote that song for my son, who just turned 4, and I wrote it for him when he was 2.5, maybe close to turning 3. And this sounds kind of like morbid, but I thought, man, I have about 1.5 years worth of traveling coming up. I'm going to be in countless airplanes, countless buses, and just to be real, like countless opportunities for something to go wrong and there be an accident or anything. And I thought I have to write a song for him, just because I want to, A, and B, if anything ever happened to me, he has to have something that I did for him that's, creatively.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
The lyrics are, if you think about it in that context, then all the lyrics make sense,
Right.
to I Live. But the reality is, once it was written and people started hearing it, everybody was taking it as their own song. They're like, this sounds like, this is the song, the thing that you would say to your best friend. This is the thing you would say to your kid or to your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. It's just, or to people that are like graduating. It's like,
Yeah.
it took on a much more universal quality than I thought it would when I started it.
I mean, you guys really have, there's nothing in the tabloids about One Republic. There's nothing in the tabloids about you. How important is it for you guys and you personally to set a good example for your son, for everyone that knows you personally?
I mean, I think it's pretty critical. It's a lot harder, there's a lot of artists that are using, let's say, different assets to achieve.
Good way to put it.
Achieve fame, pun intended.
Yeah.
It's a double entendre right there, folks. Google that. And a lot of people using a lot of assets. I mean, there's a song out right now that's using a giant asset that rhymes with, And,
Yes. Yeah.
and that, I happen to read. I'm by no means a stick in the mud, like red state conservative, bake sale
Yeah, right.
person, right? At all. It's like, I've lived in New York, lived in LA. I'm consider myself. I was raised conservative, but I'm pretty freaking liberal at this point. The reality is, though, it's like some of the stuff, some of the lyrics and some of the subject matter, writing hit songs for the sake of having a hit or pushing the ball down the field doesn't really work for me. I don't understand putting out music that doesn't have any type of fundamental objective or benefit to people. If it's just catchy melodies, then it's like we might as well be singing in Korean, because
Right.
look at Psy had a huge hit, and that whole thing, Gangnam Style was all Korean. But there's a lot with radio and with being in recording artist. There's a huge opportunity to actually I think, change people's lives for the better. And I'm not sure about that song specifically. Like I heard it and I was like, there's no way she said that. And I googled the lyrics.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the most disgusting lyric I have heard in like a decade. And people put that stuff out, and that's fine. If it becomes a hit, it makes them some more money. But it's like, I couldn't look my kid in the face, with that kind of stuff.
Right.
We're trying to be the anti that, whatever that is. One Republic. We're not pious. We're not holier than thou. But we're just trying to, U2 was one of my favorite bands growing up, and Peter Gabriel was one of my favorite artists. And so I would study their lyrics, and I thought that's how you write a song. Even some country artists that I admire lyrically.
When you, and that just made me think of this, when you hear fans or somebody say your song changed my life, like we're talking about I Lived, it can mean so many things for different people. Yeah. What does it feel like when somebody says that?
We had a girl in Virginia Beach, and I actually talked about it from stage, which I rarely do, but she got into the meet and greet line through a radio thing.
Yeah.
We weren't doing proper VIP stuff on this tour. Just like if you win tickets for the meet and greet, you win tickets. She came back and she said, she handed me a letter, this kind of like, it was 1,000,000 degrees. She hands me like the sweaty kind of ratty piece of paper. She's like, you have to read, she's probably 16. You have to read this, Don't throw it away, you have to read this. We get a lot of those, and oftentimes they're just like, and here's my SoundCloud account.
Yeah.
And my, check out, I'm a singer, and And I read hers, and it opened up, the opening line was, when I was 13, I tried to kill myself.
Ooh.
And then it went into this story about how she ended up in the hospital and failed at killing herself and felt even worse because I couldn't even do that right, and because she was being bullied. And she's like, people made fun of me constantly for the way that I looked, and that I didn't look like everybody else. And I took that to heart, and I eventually let their words poison me, and then I ended up in the hospital, much to everybody's surprise. And she's like, in the hospital, I bought your album. I think the gist of it was I was, had time to kill, and I bought your album because I had the other one, and my friends were talking about it, so I bought it, and I went through the album, and I loved it, but the song I stopped on was I Lived. And she's like, then I read that lyric over and over and over and over again, and I thought, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to live. I don't want to. Screw those people. I'm not going to let them destroy me. I'm not going to try and kill myself again. And then she closed out the letter saying, I don't know if you hear this that much or if you've heard this before, but this song literally saved my life. And she was like, thank you. And that was it. I mean, it was really heavy. And I read it right before I walked on stage. And I was just like, kind of like, oh my God. So we kept the letter and, talked about it from stage. And the point I'm making is not every song does that. And we're not trying to be this like, heavenly creature sweeping down and just like blessing people with, here, you're a better person. You're super, we're not, that's not the kind of band we are. I mean, obviously you listen to Counting Stars. It's like, it's not a necessarily a daily mantra, but the point is that songs can do that. And to me, it's like, if you have that vehicle, why wouldn't you use it?
Do you go back ever and listen to your old songs? Do you guys, or do you personally?
Rarely.
Yeah.
Pretty rare. I mean, because we're lucky enough that the stuff still gets played. I was in L.A. the other day and had Kiss FM on, which is a very, modern, super rhythmic, Southern California station. Pop station, and Stop and Stare came on.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, I emailed the program director, and I was like, did you just play Stop and Stare? He's like, man, we put it back into rotation. It tested, all the program director jargon. And I was just like, this is the weirdest thing. And I haven't listened to that song. I have not intentionally listened to Stop and Stare in probably 5 years.
It's amazing, too, when Apologize comes on here. And like, wow, that's old. But it doesn't feel old, but it is old.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
I mean, by current modern radio standards and pop culture, anything that is more than like 18 months old is old.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I always say like, nothing is less cool than last summer's dance hit.
It's a perfect way to put it.
And it's
I mean, you nailed it.
It's like, no offense to these dudes, but like, you hear like certain Black Eyed Peas songs come on the radio, and you're just like,
yeah.
Some songs age well, some songs don't age well.
Like Ja Rule and...
yeah, you know what? That Ja Rule...
we could go on and on,
Yeah, I heard that on the other day. What was they had a bunch of hits, but the Ashanti Ja Rule, their big one.
Yeah.
randomly, I was driving somewhere the other day, and that song came on, and I was just like, oh, my God.
Ryan Tedder's on with us. Nights Live with the Adam Bomb across the USA. All right, let's have some fun. This is real or fake stuff we found out about you. Could be real, could be fake. Favorite carbonated beverage is True Blood.
Oh, God, no, that's fake.
I don't even know what that is.
It's this really syrupy blood orange soda you can buy that's from the TV show. True
Okay.
Blood. It looks like blood.
I'm glad I haven't seen that. You can play the Glockenspiel, which I don't doubt it, but I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, you can play I mean, that's the funny thing. I get asked that question all the time because it's such a weird word.
Yeah.
It's essentially it's a fancier term for a xylophone, basically. I mean, it's not technically a xylophone. It's like a xylophone that you get when you're a kid, you hit the sticks on the bells, but it's like just about anybody can play that instrument.
That's not too hard. And this I saw this, which when you were talking about the I Live song, you're terrified of flying?
I was.
How did you get over that?
I was terrified. I just kept doing it.
Okay.
It comes and goes. If I have a bad experience on a plane, then it for the next year, that's all I can think about every time I get up in the plane. And I had two experiences within about 6 months. One was in Russia, where the plane almost, I mean, to be honest, it was like should be dead. Like the plane came in at a right angle. I think the pilot was either sipping some vodka or you can get a license in 3 months, or something. And he came in and at the last second corrected it, slammed us down on the tarmac twice, and then we bounced up and he just revved the engine and we just kept flying. Like,
dude, I would never get on a plane after that if that
people were
happened.
screaming. I mean, the Russians were screaming. They were scared.
My gosh.
Yeah, we were, and he banked back around to do another approach, and we were just going. I mean, I was looking at my band, and people were doing Hail Marys, people were praying, and then the other worst experience was actually here in Atlanta.
No.
You guys get some crazy weather, and we've had multiple experiences flying into Atlanta where we've had to circle just to wait to land. And I was on a flight, and the most violent turbulence I've ever experienced in my lifetime. The turbulence itself was worse than that Russian landing, and the lady. I'm not going to get graphic on it. I'll say that the lady in front of me, who was probably 50, with her like very, very elegant, like classy woman and her classy husband, she threw up everything in her entire body and was weeping. She was weeping, not crying. She was weeping. The lady behind me, same deal. Halfway through, because we were circling through like a hurricane or some huge storm, and so every time we'd come this way, 50% for like 10 minutes, we'd be in the middle of it. And it was glasses, the door, things falling out of the top, airbags popping down, like in the movies. And then halfway through the experience, the stewardess gets on the thing. She says, we were out of sick bags. We were walking around with trash bags for anybody. And they walked up and down the aisle with a black trash bag. And the lady next to me pulls out, and this is when I was like, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
Lady next to me pulls out a Bible.
Oh my!
And she goes, "Do you believe?" And she just turns to me and goes, "Do you believe?" I'm like, yes, absolutely. She goes, "Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to just in case." She's like, "Let's be good with the man upstairs." And she just like was reading, not last rites, but I took it as basically like,
yeah.
She was like, "God forgive me for everything." Da 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 da. I was just like, "This is happening. I can't believe it."
I can't believe you got on a
They
plane.
gave us all vouchers.
Yeah, like that makes it
right. I got like $5 Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And the lady, when we landed, the stewardess came back. She says, "I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do?" She said, She said, because of this flight, and I was like, tears are falling out of her eyes. Because of this flight, I will never step foot in an airplane for the rest of my life. She's like, "There's nothing you can do. You can get me off this expletive plane right now."
Man.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah.
Ryan Tedder across the USA. Dude, thanks for making great music that doesn't go away after 18 months.
Well,
I mean, seriously, coming from just somebody that listens to the radio, and I do all the time, obviously, but I always did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear songs like that stay around and you like,
Well, we try, man. Not everything connects all the time. Not everything connects the way you want it to, and a lot of the stuff we put out is a slow climb up the hill. But I guess if something's slow coming up, then it's slow coming down. So.
Right. That's the way to look at it.
I'll take that, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks so much for hanging out, man.
Thank you.